Hello everyone, my name is Gus and welcome to Dive Talk. This week, Woody's not here in the studio because he was out doing what he thinks he can still do that he used to do when he was in his 20s, and his body said, nope, you cannot do that anymore, so he hurt his back. And I feel bad for him. He should be here to talk about these computers because a couple weeks ago, Garmin, out of nowhere, sent us a box with two computers for each of us, me and Woody, the Garmin Descent Mk3i in 43 millimeters, which is the one I'm wearing right now, and in 51 millimeters. Those are the two versions that they have for this computer, just out of the blue. And these are the integrated version. That's what the Mk3i comes in, the integration, the air integration version, because they communicate with a transmitter that goes on the first stage on your regulator, and it sends signals to the computer to let you know how much air you have left. But the transmitters from Garmin are special. They are not like other regular transmitters, and I'm going to talk about why in a second. So look, there's a bunch of different reviews out there for the Garmin Mk3i. They talk about all the features and all the things you can do. I'm probably not going to go into all those because in order for me to do that, I have to have a script that reminds me of all the different specs and things you can do with it. And in typical Dive Talk fashion, I don't have a script. So this review is probably going to be longer than usual. I'm going to try to keep it as quick and as condensed as possible, but I don't have a script. So we'll see what happens. So first of all, I want to thank Garmin for sending us these. They didn't even include a note to let us know, hey, by the way, here's some computers for you to review and, give us a good review. Wink, wink. They know that wouldn't work. Everything we do here is legit, is not biased or bought for, right? Garmin didn't pay us to do these reviews. They did send us the computers, so thank you, Garmin, for doing that. However, there are some things that I liked about the computer, and there are some things that I don't like about it. So I wrote like a top 10 list, and this is more like a top 5 things I like and top 5 things I don't like about the Garmin Descent Mk3i. First of all, just to give you a little idea of what this is, if you're not familiar with dive computers, a dive computer is a device that we use on a dive. I know we have a lot of non-divers watching this channel that keeps track of your depth, it keeps track of your time, and you can program it with the gas that you're breathing, which in most cases is air, but it could be nitrox or trimix or other gases that we breathe. And the computer keeps track of the intake of those inert gases like nitrogen and helium, for example, in the case of trimix, into your body to tell you how long you can stay at a certain depth, whether you have a decompression stop or not, whether you have a safety stop or not. All of those things basically computes them for you, and it tells you, all of the information about the dive. This one's in particular also keep track of your air in the tank. It tells you how much air you have left at all times, which is great because that way you don't need to look at a gauge like we've been doing forever, right? Submersible pressure gauge, or SPG. So we use the computers for everything in diving. So what Garmin did is they basically took a dive computer like this Shearwater Terek. This is my Shearwater Terek computer. Is great, amazing computer. And then they decided to go beyond what a dive computer does by basically marrying it or mating it with a Apple Watch, an Apple Watch Ultra in this case, which does diving as well. So they took both computers, they smashed them together, and they came up with a Garmin Descent Mk3i, this thing right here. So basically it does everything the Shearwater computer can do in terms of diving, which the Apple Watch Ultra doesn't. The Apple Watch Ultra is a joke in terms of a dive computer, and I will talk about that briefly, but there's a ton of reviews online where I don't know if these people are getting paid by Apple or if they're not legit divers, but they're all praising it, which to me is mind-blowing, but that's another review. Basically they took the amazing capabilities, dive computer capabilities of the Terek or a Shearwater computer, and then they added all of the other amazing capabilities of an Apple Watch Ultra, and they put it all in this thing. So what you end up with is a super capable dive computer that's also talking to your phone. It's synchronized to your phone. It gives you reminders about upcoming appointments. It gives you reminders about, phone calls and things that, like if you're getting a phone call or whatever, a text message, it will pop up on the computer. So it's completely integrated in talking to your phone. And it also keeps track of all your health stuff. So like if you were it to sleep, for example, it will keep track of your sleep, how deep you're sleeping, how many times you woke up, that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. And I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, it has a touch screen. I don't know if you can see it, how I'm moving it, right? The Taric doesn't do any of that stuff. Look, if I enable the Taric, it's just a screen. It's super bright. Don't get me wrong. The Taric is really, really popular for being a super bright computer during the day and night and underwater. This one is also super bright, but it's touchscreen, which is pretty cool. And also, again, it gives you all of the information about your health, how many steps, all the workout. And this goes back to a conversation I had with a DM, a dive master that is, while I was on my trip last week. She was telling me that, look, I used to do cross training or cross country running or something like that. And I used to wear a Garmin to track all my workouts, elevation, running, all that stuff, all the workouts. But then I would show up on the boat to work later that afternoon or whatever, or later that morning if I went out for a morning run before the dive, and I realized I forgot my computer. So these ones are excellent for that. So I want to talk about that as one of my top 5 things I loved about the Garmin Descent Mk3i. Number 1, the capabilities. This thing does everything you throw at it. So whatever you're into, if you're into sleeping all day, this thing will track your sleep. If you're into working hard, CrossFit, golf, surfing, whatever it is that you're into, this thing will track it. All right. It will track your entire workout, your entire day, including your diving. And by the way, whatever you're into when it comes to diving, you're into free diving, no problem. You're into rebreather diving, technical diving, recreational diving, whatever diving that you do, this thing is going to keep track of it, which I thought it's fantastic, right? Now, because it's so capable, there's so much stuff in the computer that I would love to hide, right? Because I don't golf, because I don't surf, I don't ski, like snow skiing, I don't ski. There's all this stuff in the computer that is capable of that I just don't use. So I wish it was easy to just customize it to myself. And I know you're probably saying, Gus, there's an app for that. Garmin has an app for the computer. And I haven't really had much luck with the app. The app is kind of a train wreck, to be honest with you. It should work flawlessly because I use an iPhone. And if you're a mobile app creator and your app doesn't work with an iPhone, like I don't know what you're doing. Like it needs to work 100% with iPhones and Android. And if you're gonna pick one, probably iPhones because they're more popular, right? So there's 2 apps for the Garmin computer. One of them is the Dive app. That one is solid. I've had nothing but success and it works great. The Dive app for the Garmin computer, perfect, flawless, no problem. The other computer, the other app for the computer, train wreck. I cannot get it to connect. I uninstall the app, unpair it. Like I've tried everything I found on Google and Bing, both to troubleshoot my problems. Cannot get it to work. I don't know. Maybe I'm just unlucky. Maybe I have an old phone. It's an iPhone 15 Pro Max. So yeah, it's probably, a year old, too old. But anyway, I just cannot get the thing to work. But one of the things I love, again, regardless of the app connectivity, is the capabilities. This computer works for everything you throw at it. It's great. Very, very capable computer. The other thing I like about it is, at least in comparison with the Apple Watch Ultra, is the battery life. So the computer is rated for a battery life of about 30 days or 31 days, I believe. So let's say a month, but that is without diving. If you're diving a lot, like I did last week, then it's only 30 hours of diving. And that seems about right because I charged it overnight before I went on my trip. So I went on my trip on a Saturday. I charged it between Friday night to Saturday, put it on, went on a trip, and I didn't have to charge it until Thursday. So it lasted 5 days, right? That's pretty good. And on those 5 days, I was diving like 4 times a day. So I was putting a lot of hours underwater. And obviously I have a transmitter. So yeah, I mean, I get it. If you go on a liveaboard for a week and you only have to charge your computer once, that's pretty good. Now the Tarek, on the other hand, this thing, I don't remember the last time I charged this thing. I mean, it goes forever. It will last for months without charging it, whether you're diving or not. I don't know how they do it. Especially compared with this train wreck of the Apple Watch, which lasts, if you're lucky, 2 days. I know they say it's supposed to last 36 hours, but I guess if you take it and put it in a drawer and don't even look at it, maybe it will last 36 hours, maybe, but I don't think so. So I don't know how Shearwater, this little company in Canada, has better technology battery-wise than Apple. And I know all of you Apple fanboys are going to be like, well, it's not the same, this whatever, LTE. I don't care. The battery on the Shearwater lasts for months. The battery on the Apple Watch Ultra lasts for hours. The battery on the Garmin will last you a few days. So the battery life is pretty good because realistically, this is something you take on a dive trip. And if you go on a dive trip, especially a weekend dive trip or something like that, you can charge it. Don't even bring the charger. Dive all weekend, wear it all week, sleep with it, run, work out, whatever, and it will last you until you come back home. So no problem. Another thing I love, thing number 3, readability, right? The ability to look at the screen underwater and outside of the water and be able to read what's in it. It's really, really clear. And from what I understand, I've never owned a Garmin computer in the past, but the Mark 1 and Mark 2 screen, people complain a lot about them. They used to be super dim, didn't really see it, and why people recommended the Tarek and now the Turn, which is the other computer that is in this, kind of form factor from Shearwater. What people recommend the Shearwater computers is because the screen is so bright. It works in daylight, nighttime, underwater, whatever. Now the Descent Mk3i, I have zero complaints. And I personally like the 43 millimeter better than the 51. The Shearwater Tarek, by the way, 55 is a behemoth, is humongous. It's one of the reasons why I can wear it underwater, but then I feel kind of awkward. It's just too big. 55 millimeters. If you own a watch, for example, most watches are like 40 millimeters, 44. Like this thing is 55. It's a big hunk of, technology right on your wrist. So I don't like to wear it when I'm not diving. I think it's too big for me personally. And when it comes to the Descent, and you have the 43 and the 51 is pretty big as well. I feel that it's just too big to wear outside the water. The 43 seems to be great. Now, there is one thing that I really, really like about the 51 millimeter one, which is that it has a built-in flashlight. It's right here on the edge. So look, I'll show you. You just double click this thing and the light comes on. It can be a red light, just like that, or a white light. It's pretty cool. Now, when would you use a flashlight on your computer? Well, if you're wearing it out and about and you're getting up to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something like that, or you're looking for something, just double tap that button, look around, pick it up, and do it. I actually use mine in the Apple Watch whenever I'm wearing this thing, which is the button on the side. Let me unlock it here. See, flashlight on, it turns white like that, and it's enough. It's enough brightness to look for something in the darkness, and you don't have to use the flashlight on your phone and all that stuff. So I can see how that little light works. I also went on some night dives last week, and because I made the mistake of bringing my Orca Torch D910, which is brighter than the sun, underwater, every little creature that is attracted to light in the ocean came to me. And I was swarmed. It was insane how much stuff was around me, all kinds of critters, just like all over. It was insane. So I think that if I had used a, less powerful light, like the one on my watch, for example, like at some point I just turn off my light. And I did have a D710, and that's the one that I switched to. And what I did is I actually covered it with my hands, so I could kind of see, but not all bright, because it was just really, really bothering me, all the little creatures around. But I can see how that would have worked. Just really quick, double tap it, light up where you're going. Oh, there's the boat. Light it up on the way up. You're already holding your deflator, so the light which is on this side, will light up wherever you're going. It's really, really clever. I really like the fact that there's a light, and again, you can go white and red. So that is the one thing I'm jealous about on the 51 that the 43 doesn't have. It doesn't have that little built-in light, but I still prefer the 43 millimeter version better for me. It's just a better size. I wore it 24/7, never took it off until Thursday when I had to charge it. And the best thing about it is when you wear it all the time, you sleep with it. Next morning you wake up and the watch just wakes up with you and it says good morning. And then you go through this that report of how you slept, and it tells you like, oh, you slept, I don't know, 7 hours. And out of the 7 hours, you have plenty of deep sleep or not. And it will say things like, your respiratory rates and heart rates, and give you all this information. The bottom line is at the end, it gives you a 0 to 100 level of readiness for you to go diving. So every morning I will wake up, look at it and be like, you're 98% ready. Awesome. And I can go diving and feel great about it. But if it told me that I was 20% ready because I had a terrible night of sleep or whatever, then you could probably adjust your dive or not go at all based on that information. Although some of the information is kind of weird though, like there's a piece in here that does like an internal battery of some kind. Let me see if I can find it, because that I thought it was weird. So now it says fully recovered, but anyway, there's an option here somewhere that tells you your internal battery is at whatever percent. So like I was eating lunch one day after diving in the morning, and it said your internal body battery is at 33%, and I'm like, who are you to tell me, whether I'm 1/3 done for the day? It's only noon, right? It was early, so I don't know how accurate some of that information is, but the fact that it's reporting it to you is great. The other thing I like as part of the report is that because it's GPS enabled, it knows where you are, it gives you information about the tides. So if you are prone to seasickness, for example, the fact that it's telling me today expect 4 to 6 footers or whatever it is, then I can take Dramamine. Last week was great. Every time I woke up, it was like 0 to 1 foot, it was like glass out there. So I took Dramamine 0 days that I was out. I dove every day last week, and it was awesome, right? So the fact that it's reporting on the weather and sea conditions and your own body and all that stuff, you cannot get that with a Terek or a regular computer. I don't even think you can get that with an Apple Watch, to be honest. So that's important to know. Now, I know I've been comparing like this with that or whatever, the different computers. One thing that you cannot miss is the price. And I will talk about the price on the things that I don't like coming up next. So just stick with me on this one. So the readability is great. Number 4 is the fact that you can wear it 24/7, right? So it's not just for diving, and I think that is one of the reasons why the Terek's battery lasts so long, is that it's only a dive computer. Now, yes, it is a watch. Like, it will tell you the time, 9:36 p.m. right now. You can go and take it and wear it, and it will be a watch. I get it. So it doesn't just do diving. It's also a watch. But it doesn't do all the other stuff, all the tracking of your oxygen level, your heart rates, all the health stuff, the workouts, if you go hiking, if you decide to hit the gym, before or after diving, all that stuff is not available. And by the way, from what I saw on the Garmin, I think I know how to use like 5% of what the computer can do, by the way. I'm not an advanced user by any means. But I think I saw that you can even connect it to an app to help you doing workouts. Like if you're working out, it will tell you, like, okay, you get 30 seconds of this or that or burpees or whatever. Like you can use it as a trainer, which is what the Apple Watch does. If you do Apple Fitness, it will walk you through a workout. The Garmin does the same. So bicycling, whatever, like whatever you're into, this thing will do it, which is pretty cool. Connectivity with the transmitter is great. The Terek also uses transmitters, but the transmitters the Shearwater uses are the standard transmitters that are used by a lot of other companies. Like Oceanic uses the same technology. Aqualung uses the same technology. As a matter of fact, I have an Aqualung transmitter on one of my rebreathers that Shearwater computers can read, no problem. So it uses a standard. And think of it like a Bluetooth stand. It's not Bluetooth, but think of it like that. And there is about 6 feet right? So 2 meters that you can be away from. It's not even 2 meters. 6 feet is not 2 meters. But anyway, 6 feet that you can be away from your transmitter and the computer will be able to read it. But that is 6 linear feet with no blocks in between, with no nothing blocking the connection between the two. If you have, like, for example, tanks in between, or a human body from the diver in between the transmitter and the computer, then that distance decreases. I'm 5'10", so in theory, there's nowhere in my body. Well, I guess if I stretch my arm and the tank was on my foot, then it will be more than 6 feet. But theoretically, anywhere I have it, I shouldn't have interruptions when it comes to the transmission of data between the transmitter and the computer. I have that, not all the time, it's not every time, but it does happen. Like, I don't know, once every other dive or something like that, you will notice that, I think it says unable to or disconnected or something like that. The computer will say, and then you bring your hand or your arm, whatever the computer is, closer to the transmitter, and it will reconnect and it will be fine. But this thing doesn't do that. All right. So Garmin, I guess, I don't know, this is the unofficial story. They went and hired like a bunch of like engineers from like McLaren, and they told them, look, I want you guys to design a transmitter, right? And the problem that we want to solve is this range of motion and disconnection. We want to solve that. We want to make a transmitter that never fails to communicate with the computer that the diver paired it with. And they solved it. They succeeded. It works, okay? And it goes 30 feet, which is pretty awesome. 30 feet, the distance between the transmitter and the computer. And on the Terek, you can connect up to 4 transmitters at once. The Garmin will do 8. And again, because you can be up to 30 feet apart, 10 meters apart from each other, you could add your body's transmitters and you can monitor their gas as well. So if you're a parent, for example, diving with your kids, you can do that. If you're an instructor with students, you could do that. Of course, the challenge with that is that everyone has to be in Garmin mode, right? Garmin computers with Garmin transmitters, Garmin everything, because it's a proprietary solution that these engineers from McLaren created, right? They came up with the most complicated way to do this, but to solve the problem. But at the same time, they introduce another problem. And here we go into the things I didn't like about the Descent Mk3i. So not everything is perfect. One of the things I don't like about it is the price. Very expensive computer. Is, I think, the most expensive computer in the market. You're looking at about $2,000 to maybe more with a transmitter, depending on the edition that you're buying. So I think the 43 with a transmitter is $1,900 US. If you go into the 51, you're looking more of a like $2,200. It's more expensive. Now, I don't know if they go on sale or not. We're not Garmin dealers or anything, so I don't know the pricing or whether they go on sale or not. But let's just say on average, you're looking at like $2,000 for the computer and the transmitter. With Shearwater, if you want to go computer and transmitter, you are not nowhere near $2,000. I think you can probably get a Terek, for example, for $1,200 or $1,000 or something like that, and then you add the transmitter, which is like $450, I believe. So you're looking at least $400 less from the cheapest version of the Garmin Descent Mk3i. So you're gonna save hundreds of dollars. And of course, if you compare with an Apple Watch, I think this watch is like $800. So in theory, you could buy 2 Apple Watch Ultras for the price of the Garmin. Now, the Watch Ultra, again, is not a great dive computer. It's a great overall e-watch, electronic watch, whatever, iWatch, however you call this category, connected watch. But when it comes to dive computers, it's not great. First of all, you have to pay to use the dive computer capabilities of it with the app, the Oceanic app, which is, I think, like $80 a year. So every year you're going to be paying for that. That adds up. And on the other hand, if you go beyond recreational levels, which is 132 feet or 40 meters, your watch becomes a brick, basically. It tells you went over the limit, shame on you. And Apple does tell you, like, if you're going to dive this, you should probably dive with another computer as a backup. And so what's the point at that point? If you have the Garmin, you can go, I think, 200 meters, so 660 feet with this thing, which you're not going to go to. And this thing will work forever. It's awesome. So you pay for that access, right? You pay for the flagship capabilities. But let's go back to the transmitter. The transmitter was solved by, like I said, NASA engineers. And the way they did this is by using sonar technology. The problem with sonar technology is that you can hear it. If you've seen movies with like submarines, you've seen the beep, beep, like that beeping that the submarines do. But the transmitter in the Garmin is more like when the smoke alarm, battery dies or is too low. If you live in a house with a smoke alarm, you know what I'm talking about. That chirping, chirp, chirp, just going off every once in a while. With the transmitter, is like every 3 seconds or something like that. It's a lot, and it's nonstop for the whole dive. Now, when I went through it, like, first of all, everyone on the boat is like, what is that chirp? Like, what is that beeping? It's making me crazy because it's nonstop, all right? And sound travels far underwater. So it's insane. Like, it's making you crazy. Now, after the dives for day one, I went online and I started searching for, like, why is my stuff beeping? Why is my transmitter beeping? And that is when I learned that's the technology they use to communicate with the computer. So there's no way to turn it off because you want that air integration. That's what you want the transmitter for. Now, I will say that the transmitters do more than air integration. The ones from Shearwater, Oceanic, Aqualung, all of those, they all do just air integration. And it's a one-way communication. They broadcast like an FM radio antenna, if you will, broadcast. This is how much air there's left. This is how much there's just broadcasting it every few seconds. And then your computer reads that broadcast and shows it to you in a way that it makes sense. The transmitters actually send and receive stuff. They can do both. And as a matter of fact, and I pull this up because I don't want to mess up the name of the feature. There's this feature called Subwave Sonar Networking, which I don't know if I'm super excited about. But basically what it does is that it allows you, as long as your body also has a Descent Mk3i or newer, because by the time you're watching this, maybe the Mark IV is out and the Mark V or whatever. But as long as you have this technology between you guys and you're within 90 feet, so 30 meters, that's pretty good, you can send messages to each other. You can text each other. You can be like, hey, I need help. Hey, how much air you have left? I'm okay. Are you okay? Stuff like that. You can talk to each other, which is something that a lot of people have asked, by the way. When it comes to cave diving accidents and stuff, they're always asking like, hey, is there a technology where you guys can talk to each other underwater? Well, this does that. As long as you're within 90 feet of each other. And I don't know if it's 90 feet direct line of sight. Like if you're in a cave and you go around the corner behind a wall, if it works still, I don't know. Maybe something we should try. Cave diving. But the point is, you can send each other messages. Now imagine giving that power to Woody. Woody, you're now able to broadcast messages to everyone around you that has one of these computers. Boy, that could be a challenge. So I don't know if I love it or hate it, but it's pretty cool. If you're in zero vis, well, I don't know how much you can see in zero vis, so I take that back. But if you're in low vis, okay, in a place where you have, let's say, 2 or 3 feet visibility, so you can see your computer, but you cannot see more than a meter away from your face. If your body gets stuck or lost or whatever, and they are 10, 20 meters from you, 60 feet from you, they can tell you, hey, I lost you, or are you okay, or come help me, or whatever. And then that triggers you going to find them, which is, I guess is useful. But I haven't tested it, but the transmitters enable that. So again, Subwave sonar technology. Haven't tested it yet because I was the only one with a Mark III on the boat. But maybe we should record a video once Woody is back and able to test this stuff. So, but that chirp, man, online is said, oh, you'll get used to it. Like 3 dives in, and I already don't even notice it. I did, I don't know, like 20 dives so far I've done with the computer, and it bothers me from beginning to end every single dive. I cannot get over it. It's just chirping and chirping and chirping every 3 to 5 seconds, and it's crazy. Number 3 thing that I don't like about the Garmin is the insane amount of alerts. Like even the Apple Watch that is ultra connected with my iPhone doesn't give me as many alerts. This thing is alert galore. And maybe if the app that you're supposed to use to customize the computer actually worked, maybe you can turn off some of it. I actually, on mine, I put mine on do not disturb, like just stop it, because it was nonstop alerts for everything. Imagine every alert that you can get on your phone from every app, Facebook and Instagram and whatever, X, like eBay, any app that you have on your phone that you get an update for, bing, this thing will show up. Like we have a Tesla. If the Tesla window is cracked open or whatever, like, hey, your Tesla, it was nonstop alerts, like insane. So I had to turn it off. I just couldn't deal with it. I don't know why, right? Why the alerts are nonstop. And by the way, you cannot turn them off underwater. It's the same thing underwater. I don't know if the watch is ultra conservative, like the computer is ultra conservative or not. One thing I did is I adjusted it to my custom gradient factors. Let's not get into that debate right now, but the same gradient factors and the same algorithm, the Buellman algorithm that I use in the Tarek, I put the same conditions on the Garmin because I wanted to compare them apples to apples. And I feel like the Garmin is too much of a babysitter. Like 10 minutes to NDL, right? 10-minute NDL left. It was just vibrating and sending all these shockwaves of alerts. I don't know if you know much about diving, but if you go down to like 120 feet, 130 feet, 40 meters, 35 meters, 10 minutes of NDL is what you get as soon as you hit the bottom. Like, you just go down to that depth, and this thing is like, bang, 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 just vibrating every other minute. Like, hey, be careful. Like, I get it. Like, take it easy. Like, I wish you would just give me a break. Take a second. It was like nonstop. You're going up too high. You're too fast. You're going down too fast. You're good. Hey, watch your NDL. You have 10 minutes left. Like, dude, give me a break. It's like nonstop alerts. And I just felt overall, it felt like the computer was more conservative than the Shearwater computer, even though it should be the same. They're using the same algorithm, the same gradient factors, same conditions. I don't know if it's because maybe the Garmin was tracking the fact that I was exercising. Maybe that adds to it, and the Tarek doesn't. The Tarek thinks I'm just sleeping all day. I don't know. Maybe the fact that I was putting in thousands and thousands of steps a day, that plays a part on it. I'm not an expert on what the Garmins use for their calculations, but it did feel like it was way more conservative than the Shearwater computers. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. To me, it was a little annoying that I was down at 50 feet and it said, you have 20 minutes left. And I'm like, come on. Like, I know I have 60 minutes at 60 feet. Why do I have only 20 at 50? Like, I don't know. Maybe he knew that I just worked out earlier. Like, I don't know. It was kind of annoying. I didn't like that. The phone connectivity sucks. I already mentioned this before with the app. The app that they use. Let me see if it works right now. All right. So let's just do it live. So the app that they use is called the Garmin Connect IQ. Okay? Connect IQ. So if I go to my devices, you can see, I'm going to put it on the screen. All right? Let me see if I can show you this. Both computers, which are right next to the phone. Here, I'll put it right next to the phone. So you see that they're together. Not connected. How is that a thing? I'm right next to it. I don't get it. Like, it's impossible. And yeah, there's a check mark on it or whatever, but it's just not connected. It's never connected. I don't know what to do. It's terrible. So that I didn't like at all. That should be flawless, like the Apple Watch or close to it. I don't get it. And the other thing I don't like about the computer is that for lack of better terms, too complicated to use. It has 5 buttons on it, and I get it. Like the Tarek has 4 buttons on it. But these buttons do things. If you double tap them, they do something. If you hold them down, they do something else. If you just tap them once, they do something else. So now you're multiplying the 5 buttons times 3 potentially, right? So now there's 15 different functions that you have to deal with. And it feels to me, because the watch does so much, the computer does so much, I'm never going to really master it. That's what it feels like. But at the same time, that's how I felt when I went from like a flip phone or from a flip phone to a BlackBerry, right? When I got my first smart or like whatever phone, that was, I remember looking at the BlackBerry. Those of you who are old enough made that transition from like a Motorola Razr to a BlackBerry. That's what I did. and you look at all those buttons, full query keyboard, right, on the BlackBerry, and you're like, I'm never going to learn how to use this stuff. And within like a week, you were addicted to it. Maybe I'll get addicted to it. That remains to be seen. Overall, I really like it. I know that I came up with negative things to say, bad things to say, because I hope that Garmin takes that and improves it for the Mark IV, Mark V, etc. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know how they can get rid of the chirp, for example, the sonar technology in the transmitter. That doesn't sound like it's an easy thing to fix unless they put that on like a wavelength that will make ducks crazy, but we can hear it or something like that. Unless they come up with something like that is inaudible by humans, it will continue to make me crazy. But overall, the positives outweighs the negative like 10 times to 1. I mean, it's really, really a cool computer. Again, Garmin didn't pay me to say this. I am still a Shearwater fan. I'm not going to stop diving Shearwater either. I think that there's a place for both. I think that ultimately everyone in the market wins. If someone was asking me about a computer, what should I buy? My immediate response before was Shearwater. But I think that if you think about a full human or a full diver, divers don't just dive. They do other stuff during the day. You know, you're out walking around, you're out exercising, you're out, especially if you're out on a trip at a cool place. Let's say you go to, I don't know, Galapagos. You're probably going to go diving, and then you're going to go into an island and do a tour and, look at some tortoises or whatever you do in the Galapagos. I haven't been. But the point is, you are more than just the dives. The 24 hours that you spend on a day, let's say you spend 4 hours underwater. That leaves you with 20 other hours that a regular computer is not really going to do much for you. This thing will. The other 20 hours, whether you're sleeping, working out, whatever, this thing will keep track of it, and it will give you useful information that you can leverage to become better. So that's my take on the Garmin. I recommend it. If you can afford it, buy it. I wouldn't regret, buying one and owning one if I were you. Now, if you want to save some money, look into Shearwater. They have some great options as well. But, for people that will say like, whoa, $2,000, I'd rather buy this other one for $1,500. Look, if the $1,500 computer was $2,000, you would just pay the $2,000, right? Don't think about it in those terms. When it comes to scuba, I really, really get annoyed when people are like, this regulator is $600. I could have that for $400. But the $600 regulator is that price point for a reason. It doesn't cost the same to make as the $400 one, costs. And if the $400 regulator was $600, you would just pay $600, right? So just buy the $600 one that is better, right? If you can afford a Garmin Descent Mk3i, get it. It's really cool. It will keep track of everything you do and more. That's my take on it. Now, in the past, I have reviewed Shearwater computers, and in case you have missed that, I'm going to leave the video right here. Go check it out, and hopefully we have Woody next week, and with his back still working. See you in the next one.